Thank you so much, Linda. I just want to go ahead and introduce our presenter for today, Ms. Camille. She has spent the last 5 years fighting the good fight down there at DSSCI headquarters. Prior to that, she provided counterintelligence support to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency and the U.S. Army. She brings a wealth of experience to this topic. And Camille, why don't we see what we're going to get into today?
Okay. Good morning. My name is Camille, as Rebecca stated. I'm a counterintelligence analyst at DSS headquarters, and I'll be your presenter for today. Many DoD personnel travel overseas on official travel to visit foreign partners, conduct joint projects, and to attend conferences, conventions, and trade shows. Whether you are an experienced traveler who has taken numerous trips or a first-time traveler, by traveling smart and having a game plan before you go, you can help protect sensitive, proprietary, or classified information. It is important to remember when traveling overseas that foreign intelligence entities have the home field advantage. So today we will discuss these topics that will help you better prepare for overseas travel.
That sounds great, Camille. And so let's start out with what you just said, the foreign intelligence entities. What are you talking about here?
Well, when I talk about foreign intelligence entities, nearly every country has intelligence agencies that operate to support its own political, economic, and military interests. DoD personnel, including our cleared contractors, are regularly targeted by foreign intelligence entities based upon their placement and access to valuable information. Foreign intelligence entities are any known or suspected foreign organization, person, or group, whether public, private, or government, that conducts intelligence activities to acquire U.S. information, block or impair U.S. intelligence collection, influence U.S. policy, or disrupt U.S. systems and programs. Keep in mind that this term includes foreign intelligence and security services, as well as international terrorist organizations.
I like that you point that out, Camille, because in the past we always used the phrase Foreign Intelligence Service, or FIS, instead of FIE. And I think with the issuance of the new DoD directive that you have up there on the screen, the 5240.06, we see that it really is a broader range of entities. The traditional collectors of the Foreign Intelligence Service, foreign security services, diplomatic services, but also commercial entities or even individuals that might be after our information.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Rebecca.
All right, well, before we get too far into your tips, I want to ask our listeners, what types of information may be targeted by U.S. travelers overseas? It's sort of a question people might have, well, I don't really know anything, who would be interested in something from me? Do any of our listeners out there have an idea of what might be being targeted by these foreign intelligence entities? Oh, I see a number of people responding in the chat box. And some really good ideas there. I see people saying proprietary information, classified, FOUO, anything embarrassing, which is certainly true, military and commercial, technical data, program data, sensitive info, IT, that's a really good point coming in from Maureen. Company name, where you work. PII is a good one. You don't see people bring that up a lot, but that's certainly something that has to be protected and could be targeted.
Yes.
Wow, good answers all around. Deployment schedules. One of these people, Makiva Flower, says everything with an exclamation point, which is a great answer. Well, so we've got some ideas from our listeners, Camille. Why don't you tell us a little bit more in detail about where they've hit the mark or missed some things, perhaps?
Exactly. As you mentioned, good answers all around. Here's a list of some of the information that foreign intelligence entities may be seeking from you while you're on travel. As people mentioned, personal information, your calendars, your meeting schedules, your list of contacts, military technologies, particularly marine systems, unmanned aerial vehicles, aerospace technologies, and also the associated technical specifications or proprietary data associated with those programs. Also business information that could aid in negotiations or dual-use technologies in sectors that are likely to experience fast growth.
Very good, Camille. And, you know, as you list all these items, they really make me think of OPSEC indicators. For those of our listeners who are familiar with Operation Security, this is not necessarily the critical program information themselves, but all those little bits of data, the essential elements of friendly information that when aggregated can lead a foreign intelligence entity or collector to the technical stuff or the personnel that they can later target. And it looks like between what you've listed and what I see that came in the chat response, we really are understanding that it covers a whole gamut of information that they're after.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we've talked about what they're after. How do they get it, Camille?
Yes. This is a list of the methods of operations. Foreign intelligence entities use various methods to collect information. Some ways in which you may be targeted include physical surveillance, electronic monitoring, elicitation, unauthorized searches, and surreptitious entry into hotel rooms. We'll examine each one of these topics closer, and later we'll provide some countermeasures.
Okay, sounds good. How about the physical surveillance piece?
Yes, DoD contractors have been subject to physical surveillance while traveling overseas. Keep in mind that surveillance can be via foot or vehicle, known as mobile surveillance, or consist of a stationary individual, known as static surveillance. Surveillance may be conducted to determine when you leave your hotel room, so that a foreign intelligence entity can have access to your personal belongings. It may also be used to uncover criminal or embarrassing behavior that can be used to blackmail you. Many countries are also very wary of U.S. presidents, and they may monitor you to see if you're affiliated with U.S. intelligence in any way.
So I guess that goes to the point that when you're traveling overseas, don't wear that shirt with your contractor name over the breast. Don't wear that hat that the FBI gave you on your last visit. Really try to keep a low profile.
Exactly. You definitely want to maintain a low profile when you're traveling overseas.
All right. Well, what's another method that might be used?
Concealed monitoring. Keep in mind that public and private places can be covertly monitored with video and sound recording devices, and this includes your restaurants, outdoor common areas, hotel lobbies, as well as hotel rooms. And many of our personal electronic devices can have their microphones and cameras turned on remotely, and they can also serve as electronic monitoring devices. Foreign hotels also place U.S. personnel in hotel rooms that are already wired for concealed monitoring, so be cognizant if you frequent a hotel and you're being placed in the same room or the same floor. Basically, have no expectation of privacy while you're traveling overseas.
I guess that's a good point, Camille, and I would even say these days, even at home, there's just no expectation of privacy anymore. We all read the stories and know about hacking attempts and technical intrusions, and it's pretty unrealistic to think that your information is going to be protected no matter what.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, so another methodology you've listed is the bribery, blackmail, or coercion?
Yes. In the past, foreign intelligence services have used bribery and blackmail as a means to coerce people to provide sensitive or classified information. Please keep in mind that engaging in criminal or embarrassing behavior while overseas will place you at risk.
So I guess whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas unless you're being followed by a foreign intelligence entity the whole time you're there.
Exactly.
Okay. So another methodology you've listed is the elicitation and direct questioning.
Yes. Foreign intelligence entities can also use you to provide information, either through elicitation or direct questioning. Now, elicitation is a conversation with a purpose, and that purpose is to extract information from you, and if it's done correctly, it's not alarming at all. So elicitation is a very low risk, high reward, and it takes advantage of our natural proclivities to talk about ourselves, to be helpful, correct others, and appear well-informed. And many of the elicitation techniques are designed to exploit those proclivities, such as making a false statement in hopes that we correct them, the quid pro quo technique, which someone may offer sensitive information in hopes that we do the same. They may feign ignorance, pretending to be naive regarding topics in hopes that we explain the details. They may use flattery to encourage us to talk about ourselves and reveal additional info. And elicitation is very different from direct questioning. And direct questioning is just that. It's just very direct.
And I guess, that goes to the point, Camille, that the easiest way to get information, if you want it, is to just ask for it. The worst that can happen is that somebody could say no, but often even the way that somebody says no reveals a little bit and allows those foreign intelligence entities to maybe redirect their methods or try another tact.
Yes.
Right. Okay, what's next?
Those personal electronic devices. Many DoD personnel travel with personal electronic devices so they can access information and increase their productivity while they're overseas. And these personal electronic devices, they include our BlackBerry devices, our PDAs, laptop computers, thumb drives, cell phones, wireless keyboards and mice, and any audio and video recording devices. And the prevalence of personal electronic devices, they carry a lot of vulnerabilities. Many skilled foreign intelligence agencies can install malware or covertly copy devices without even physically accessing your device. They can use your geolocation of your device to support surveillance operation. They can use airport security screenings to kind of separate you from your personal electronic device. And malicious actors can also use malware-infected apps or email attachments to install unwanted software onto your device. Another vulnerability is the IMSI catcher. IMSI stands for International Mobile Subscriber Identity Number. And this is a 15-digit numerical sequence that constitutes a unique identification for a mobile handset SIM card. So the IMSI catcher simulates the activities of a cell tower and can direct the mobile phone to disable the encryption and security protocols. The IMSI catcher can then be used to unencrypt your messages, listening on your phone calls, trace your phone calls, and even record your calls.
That is crazy, Camille. I had never heard of this IMSI catcher before, and it really goes back to your earlier point, though, that just there's no expectation of privacy whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you're talking here about some of the indicators that there have been tampering or maybe some sort of targeting of you. Can you go through this list for us?
Yes, this list, as you stated before, is a list of indicators that your personal electronic device may have been tampered with. For example, a sudden rapid battery drain or overheating could indicate the presence of an unknown application that's constantly running on your device in the background. So it's always a good idea to check your device before you travel, during your travel, and after you travel so that you can easily identify any changes to your device and when they may have occurred. And of course, it's always best to keep your personal electronic device with you at all times.
Right. Good advice, Camille. Okay.
And of course, let's look at unauthorized searches. Unauthorized searches have been reported by DoD personnel while traveling overseas. Basically, any item left unattended anywhere is subject to an unauthorized search. This includes your luggage, your purses, your briefcases. The most common place that this happens is in hotel rooms. But keep in mind this can occur anywhere at any time for items that are left unattended, such as outside conference rooms or even meeting spaces.
And Camille, all of these methods that you've talked about of targeting of travelers overseas come from actual cases that you've heard about of things that have occurred to our U.S. defense travelers.
Yes, exactly. And here is a list of some of the suspicious activity that was reported by cleared contractors while traveling overseas. We've had various reports of room entries where the cleared contractor personnel were out of their rooms. We had reports of a laptop being remotely accessed while the contractor employee was asleep. We've had instances of moving personnel to another room without their permission when they're out. We've had cleared contractors employees asked to turn in their badge, their employee badge, in order to check into a hotel. And we've had lots of reports of elicitation at hotel bars.
Amazing. So this stuff is not just in the movies. This is happening every day to our cleared defense contractors on travel.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, in the recent months, there's kind of been an uptick in reporting.
Okay. Okay, good to keep in mind. And so tell us, what is the impact of this kind of collection?
Basically, the loss of sensitive and proprietary information can pretty much have a detrimental effect. It can lead to, tech transfers to hostile states, job losses, delays in production, and even the loss of our competitive edge.
Absolutely. And so what can our listeners do to help prevent this kind of activity?
Yes, here is a list of things that you should not do while traveling. Basically, if you think you're being followed, do not attempt to evade surveillance. Just continue to a safe public destination. If you're trying to avoid surveillance, the foreign intelligence services may think you're a trained spy, and they may start to devote more resources and efforts to target you.
So don't play special agent while you're traveling overseas.
Yes, do not play 007 overseas. Also, you don't want to set traps in your hotel rooms. Of course, it's a good idea to remember, where you placed your items and so forth, but you don't want to be in your room sprinkling baby powder around your door to try to capture footprints, because if there is actually someone monitoring you, they'll see you doing that, and once again, that brings more attention and effort your way, something you definitely don't want when you're traveling. And also, if you do find a suspected monitoring device, don't tamper with it. Just remember as many details as you can and report it when you return. You never want to confront suspicious entities. You never want to leave any technical, sensitive, or proprietary information unattended. You always want to try to keep those items with you. The same thing goes for your personal electronic devices. And also, you don't want to insert any thumb drive, disk, or other media into your computer or personal electronic device until they've been examined.
Absolutely. Those are all good tips. So let's move on to our next chat question. What do our listeners think as far as security countermeasures that can be employed to mitigate this threat? We just heard a nice list of things not to do from Camille. Is there anything that anybody else out there can think of that would be effective in mitigating this threat? And we're getting some answers coming in. I like what Mr. Jackson said about providing the pre-travel security briefing. Forewarned is forearmed, as they say, and that's a really good answer. We have some more people talking about using sanitized laptops. Leave those PEDs at home. You know, that's a good point, too. How much do you really need to bring while traveling? Using burner phones, loaner laptops. A lot of people have those ideas. Oh, we got a lot of people typing in. Don't carry packages so you're not suspected as a courier. Contacting the embassy, visiting the State Department website, really good ideas. And I think I see a couple of themes running through what the responses are. One is awareness, and one is planning, to really think ahead, because a lot of these things, getting the burner phone or getting a temporary laptop or contacting the State Department in advance, all require planning. I also, somebody said, don't do stupid stuff, and that's probably good advice no matter where you're going. That was a good one. All right, so Camille, we've got a ton of great responses from our listeners. What did you have to add, or what can you consolidate for us as far as what should we do to prevent this kind of activity?
Well, here's a list of some of the things you can do to help protect yourself and information while traveling overseas. As one of the individuals mentioned, have a plan prior to travel. Traveling can be hectic, so the best time to start planning for your travel is now. Try to minimize the amount of information you travel with. Consider taking a sanitized laptop that only has the items that you need for your trip. Also consider sanitizing your personal electronic devices prior to travel and have them scanned upon return if your employer has the capability. Make sure your firewall, antivirus software is up to date. This is especially important for our personal computers. As someone mentioned also, consider encrypting your hard drive on your laptop. Always disable your Bluetooth and your wireless functions on your personal electronic devices, as they can give remote access to your device. And as I stated before, maintain possession of your proprietary information and your personal electronic devices. Leaving them unattended in a hotel room is never a good idea. And also, when you're working with your foreign partners, it's also good to know what's sensitive about your program and what falls outside of the technical assistance agreement, because it's not uncommon for foreigners to attempt to obtain information outside the scope of the TAA.
That's absolutely true, and I would say for those of our listeners who also have a technology control plan in place, make sure you're following any requirements for that as well. All the things that you pointed out, Camille, are such good advice, and it really reminds me that, you know, targeting doesn't just happen overseas. We have a huge amount of targeting that occurs at trade shows, conventions, seminars, even when they're in CONUS. And I would think that these types of tips would really apply to that kind of travel as well.
Oh, yes, you're right. It does. Most certainly.
Good. Okay, good. All right. What do we do if any of this occurs, though? I think you have some information on reporting for us.
Yes. Of course, when you return or observe any suspicious activity, you definitely want to report that to your security officer. Basically, any known or suspected physical surveillance, monitoring, anything on the indication list that we mentioned earlier that your device may have been tampered with, or any attempts to access your personal electronic device or separate you from your personal electronic device, any bribery attempts or blackmail attempts, or if you come under additional scrutiny at the airport, are all things you should keep in mind when it comes to reporting.
Absolutely, and I would think that all of these things would be constituting a suspicious contact, and that's required reporting under 1302A of the NISPOM, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, anything else? Any final thoughts that you want to add on this topic, Camille?
No, just if there's any further questions.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get to some of those questions in a moment. You did such a great job. I really want to thank you so much for bringing this topic to our audience. It's a pretty great chance to learn more about the threats posed to U.S. travelers overseas, as well as some of the mitigation strategies, reporting requirements. I do want to point out to those in our audience, we do have some related training available here at the CDSE. Our CI Foreign Travel Briefing, which is available as a short learning topic, assists security officers in the development of their own tailored foreign travel briefs. And I saw that pop up from some of our participants as far as one of the mitigation strategies, and it's one that you recommended as well. The CI Foreign Travel Brief Short provides an outline of topics which are recommended for inclusion in a foreign travel brief, and it also provides you a template that you can use and actually customize to fit your individual needs. And best of all, that's something you can log on and take without registration, and it only takes about 15 minutes. I also want to point out some of our prior webinars, which are posted in our archive webinar page here at CDSE, include the technology trend reporting, which covers a lot of this type of targeting that Camille was just sharing with you. Also, critical elements of a suspicious contact report, which will help you if you're going to report some of this activity. And then also outline some of the other DSSCI products and briefings that are available from the DSSCI shop where Camille works. Now we do have time to maybe get to a couple of questions. We had Mr. Matthew come in and he asked, are we able to receive some of the information that other people in industry are reporting so we can pass that information on to our employees? Now, Camille, I know you put out the tech trends every year, both classified and unclassified versions, which talk about collection methodologies. Are the travel stories collected in any other places, or is that the best resource there?
Yes, sometimes they do make our annual trends document. And sometimes we do like ad hoc analyst publications. So that's certainly a topic that if we haven't addressed, we can address in the future.
Yeah,
I guess the thing that becomes an issue is classification. So we don't put too much information out at the unclass level. I know our trends are, but if he has a certain requirement and they do have a clearance, he can just pass that over to the FSO, get in contact with the DSSCI rep that supports that facility, and we can see about getting some of that information out to that facility so he can share with the employees.
I love that. I really love that suggestion, Camille, of getting the CI special agent that supports your facility involved, because they are really going to be able to tailor some threat information to you. And particularly if you're traveling to a specific area or working in a specific technology, they can really focus in on who's targeting what you're after and the methods that might be used. So that's a great suggestion. And for any of our listeners that are not in defense industry but in DoD enterprise, you have a CI support office as well that would be thrilled to go over these kind of items with you and help you really tailor your pre-travel brief, or even after the fact when you're reporting the information. It's going to be very useful to them. We have some other questions that came in. Somebody asked, do these tips apply to non-official travel?
Yes, everything I mentioned today applies to non-official travel as well. You can be targeted anywhere at any time. Many foreign intelligence services are very opportunistic, and they will seize the chance to target you. There are several foreign intelligence services that specifically use personal travel as a way to spot and assess you, or in other words, determine your placement and access to information that they're seeking. So even if you only suspect that you're being targeted, it's just best that you go ahead and just report any suspicious activity as soon as possible.
Okay, that's good advice. And then I have another question that came in asking whether or not there's some activities that should be reported prior to a return from the trip. So we've talked a lot about when you get back and you have your travel debrief, the things that should be reported to the security officer, but are there some incidents that should be reported as soon as they occur?
Yes, I would say like any, kind of criminal activity,
Sure.
or if you do have a very highly alerting CI concern if you are approached by, intelligence officer, or you do think you're surveilled and you're really bothered by it. I would give the embassy or consulate a call wherever you're at. They have a regional security officer that takes that type of information in country. So if there's something that is really alerting that you just can't wait, you think it needs to be addressed in country, I would contact the embassy and get a hold of the regional security officer.
Really good advice, Camille. That is perfect response. Now, we're running out of time. We do have a couple other questions that have come in, but I want to remind our listeners that we'll be answering those questions offline. And what we'll do is put together a little question and answer sheet that we'll throw up on the web when we post the session in archives. And so your questions will be answered there. I do want to thank everyone for participating with us in our webinar. You should see at this point a webinar feedback survey popping up. And that feedback survey is pretty important to us. Not only does it help us judge how Camille and I did for you today, but any suggestions you have for future topics or the structure of the webinars, anything we can do to make them more useful to you in the future, we really do appreciate those comments. So if everybody could go ahead and hit the feedback button. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. There's also a slide that will pop up after the webinar that shows the counterintelligence training POC here at the CDSE. It is myself and our curriculum manager, Mr. Pete DeCesar. Always happy to answer questions at our counterintelligence.training@dss.mil email. I want to thank you so much, Camille. This was a really useful topic. I think it's very worthwhile for our listeners, and I appreciate your joining us from down there at the DSS CI headquarters.
Thank you.
I want to say you're welcome. Thank you also to Linda and Tina, our producers today. From everyone at CDSE, thanks for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you. This concludes today's conference. Participants, you may disconnect at this time.